of the capacity to pump water from the river, so to speak. But there are certain levels you must imagine that there is a difference in the level of the reservoir and the cooling ponds and the river itself. So you need to pump it up. And then if the level goes down too much, you cannot do that. So all of these things are in combination. This is why we say there is no reason for immediate panic or to believe that the water to cool the plant is going to dry up immediately, but it's a serious situation. We are taking this very seriously.
So no immediate, but Ukraine says it will take, I think they said 5 years, Mr. Grossi, to rebuild the dam. So I'm guessing you're looking now at plan B here.
Well, absolutely. There are a number of mitigation or mitigating, if you want, measures that can be taken, including using water from other places, not necessarily the river, digging for water in the water table near the plant, getting water from neighboring towns or villages. But all of this needs to be assessed. Of course, the decision will be taken at the plant, but we as IEA being present there are going, of course, to express very clearly what we feel should be done. Obviously, the situation, and I am aware of the assessment by the Ukrainian government. It is going to take a long time to go back to the situation before the accident, but we were estimating this possibility. We were assessing this possibility as one. We were wishing that it would not occur, but unfortunately, this has been the case.
You call it an accident there. Kiev accuses Russia of blowing up this dam, sabotaging its own dam. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, there's no. You shouldn't read too much into me using the word accident. It is, of course, an event. It is a distraction. I am the head of an agency that is an agency, among many other things we do, of inspectors. We inspect. We are known as the nuclear watchdog, as you know. So we don't speculate. When we pass judgment on something, it's on the basis of information that we can assess. And as you can imagine, I don't have information to tell you what we believe is at the origin of this. And there are a number of speculations that are out there on who is behind it. What I'm dealing with is with the results, and I'm trying to prevent this from getting into a nuclear accident.
Let's talk then about inside the plant, because as you would have seen, Mr. Grossi, from our correspondent in Kherson, Fred Fleiken, using hundreds of people being evacuated in the area. What has this meant for the staff at the Zaporizhzhia power plant? Are there enough qualified people there to run the nuclear plant safely in your view?
Well, this is a good point. This plant, it's actually 6 reactors. Used to have around 12,000 people working there. At the moment, we are below 3,000. Of course, one has to bear in mind that the plant at the moment is not operating normally. It's not generating power. So it is at a very low level, at a low regime. So in this very low level operation, we call it in the jargon shutdown, you need far less people that you would need if the plant was operating as in peacetime, which is not the case now. But it's a matter that worries us, and I have been discussing this in Moscow and in Kiev, because quite clearly a situation like this is not sustainable for too long. There will be a moment where a decision will have to be taken as to whether the plant will be restarted or not, and then there might be a problem in terms of staff. This is only a quantitative analysis I am making, and I'm conscious of the fact that I'm not talking about something that worries me a lot also, which is the welfare, the situation, the pressure. You have to remember that this plant is at the front line, right at the front line, not in the province, not in the vicinity, it's at the front line. Whenever I go there, I have to go through the front line and to a no man's land, and with soldiers confronting each other, seeing each other. This is where the action is. So you can imagine working in those conditions. And you were mentioning that a few days ago, some people were invited to evacuate a village near the plant. So the situation has nothing normal about it. It is very abnormal, and the levels of stress and anxiety are enormous. We are trying to help in that regard as well.
I can't imagine the stress that they are all feeling. Mr. Grossi, appreciate you taking the time to speak to us this evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Pope Francis' abdominal surgery has been completed, we're being told, and the Vatican says there were no complications. That is very good news. The Pontiff will spend the next few days in a Rome hospital. The Vatican says the operation was to repair a hernia that was causing the Pontiff pain and as well as other symptoms. A spokesman says the Pope should make a full recovery, but it's sparking renewed fears over the 86-year-old's fragile health. It is a
We're going to go forward here. He's in bad health. They're not looking for him to be able to eat for the next 10 days. Feel sorry for the old guy. Going to what is going to be shown right here.
Paper publisher. Today, the Duke of Sussex was cross-examined by both his own lawyers and those for the Mirror Group newspaper. Harry has claimed that there were multiple incidents of phone hacking by NGN journalists and that press intrusion became a security issue. Former NGN journalist Jane Kerr also took the stand earlier.
And that's the same thing as my phone. I know good and well that they're listening, they're eavesdropping. And if they can't eavesdrop one way, just like last night I documented a friend that after I got through documenting it, she noted I was documenting it, and I didn't tell her that I was going to put it on YouTube. As a matter of fact, she told me to be discreet about it because of certain things going on in her family, and because of it, I deleted it. I put it over in the trash. Well, once you put it over in the trash, now it's in another department of your phone to where anybody can take control of your phone, and they can gather up all the stuff that you have put in your trash unless you have dumped your trash out. It's just one thing after another in how that they can tamper, in how that they can eavesdrop, and how that they can invade your privacy.
Continues in the golf world and international community just one day after the P.G.A. Tour announced a partnership with its Saudi-backed rival Live Golf. Top players had what's being called an intense and heated meeting with P.G.A. Tour head Jay Monahan yesterday, and the reaction to the shocking deal has been mixed.
This is the best thing that could ever happen for the game of golf, and I'm extremely proud to be a part of that because of the fact that the fans are going to get what they want. The players are going to experience something a little different, a little new on the PGA Tour side, but I truly believe in the end the game of golf wins in this scenario.
It was contentious. There were many moments where certain players were calling for new leadership of the PGA Tour and even got a couple standing ovations, but there was a lot of anger in that room from players, but feeling like they can't trust what the leadership of the PGA Tour says anymore.
Well, this deal has also put new emphasis on Washington's political relationship with Saudi Arabia. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in the Saudi capital after his nearly 2-hour meeting in Jeddah with the kingdom's de facto leader, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Our Nick Robertson has more on that.
Whether it's gobbling up golf rights or signing yet another global soccer star or setting oil price trends, Saudi cutting production by 1 million barrels a day, or in diplomacy, Secretary of State Antony Blinken's 3-day visit, many roads now seem to lead to Riyadh. US relations with the Desert Kingdom have been rocky. President Biden making democracy and human rights a core issue. But increasingly, Saudi's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman setting his own agenda. Blinken hoping to thwart US-Saudi tensions and build on recent cooperation, helping both Yemen and Sudan end internal conflicts. Ahead of his arrival, Blinken putting Israel on his agenda too.
The United States has a real national security interest in promoting normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. We believe that we can, and indeed we must, play an integral role in advancing it.
Blinken's days-long visit meeting not just Saudi officials, but regional and other diplomats too, discussing ISIS in Africa and Asia, and likely Iran's nuclear enrichment program, as well as Russia's war in Ukraine. All point to Saudi's growing influence. Monday, the Crown Prince hosted Venezuela's president. Tuesday, Iran reopened its diplomatic mission in Riyadh, thanks in part to bin Salman's strengthening ties with China. Last month, he hosted Ukraine's President Zelensky, hopes to help broker peace there one day. Whether diplomacy or sport, MBS is thinking big, eye-poppingly big. Listen to the Saudi private investment fund governor, who bankrolled Saudi's LIV golf tour, explain Saudi's growing influence in the world of golf.
The potential there is really big. I mean, if you look at the size of golf, monetary-wise, it's about 100 billion today, and I think the growth is there.
From Formula One to boxing to music festivals, MBS is reimagining his kingdom. As strange as it seems to many outside the region, outraged at the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, bin Salman is offering his population entertainment unimaginable a decade ago, when religious conservatives he banished held sway. At home, his rebranding of Saudi Arabia has gained traction, albeit detractors risk jail if they speak out. Significantly, however, he has yet to persuade the world he can be trusted. Nick Robertson, CNN, London.
And that's just it. They can't be trusted. Other government officials know that they can't be trusted. Our government officials in America knows that they can't be trusted. And to think that the World Golf has done this is basically an act of betrayal towards selling the American people out, knowing good and well how they feel, how New York feels even to this day because of 9/11 about the Saudi Arabians, not counting what they've done to the journalist. And you know, one of the first things I thought of when I was watching this was there was a part there in Pale Rider, the movie Pale Rider, that Clint Eastwood was in, that this individual kept wanting to run these people out, and then finally there towards the last he offered them a decent settlement, basically to buy out. Couldn't run them out, buy them out. And they all stopped in retreat of what that they had originally started in doing towards packing up and leaving and taking the buyout, because they debated about their integrity and how much the next time would they be willing to sell out their integrity after setting up shop and maybe being on a ridge or down in a valley for 4 or 5 years after having their homes already built and everything else built there. How much would they be willing to sell their integrity, their pride, for the next higher bidder? And that's exactly what the World Golf has done. They have sold their integrity, and because of it, they should be despised and looked upon as being just as wicked and as demonic as the very devils that they made the deal with. Because it was those devils, Satan, that come over here to America, not only in 1988, during the time that I personally met them, but it was those devils that planned, that was over here during the time of 9/11, that was granted presidential permission of leaving the continental United States a day after 9/11 occurred, when everybody was wheeling of what had recently just happened. In the meantime, those people over in the Middle East was praising Allah, jumping up and down, bowing down, and going absolutely start raging crazy, because their God, Allah, that committed that that induced and committed that terrorist attack, that was exactly what they wanted. You know, this three-ring circus is going to end. Those people over there, they do not have endless money, and basically what they're doing right now is playing with the market towards driving the prices up even higher, that eventually not only the American people but the world's going to catch on to them. Now they're going to try to mask or mascot all their bad behaviors that they have been involved in for the past 25, 30 years. They're going to set up a smoke screen, and man, they're going to act like that they have turned over a new leaf. But in reality, they got just as much hate today towards the Christians. And it's not just the Christians over in Israel, but it's the Christianity and Christians all over the world that they despise, because they want to rule the rules here, not only in America but on the planet, in them being given that great sword in the Doomsday Devil's Duel. The sword that it talks about in Revelations chapter 6, verses 3 and 4 of the Red Horse. I know just exactly what they're up to. I think other government officials as well as our government officials know what they're up to. But as of right now, because of this resistance movement that's still going on with the founder of the Windmill Ministries missions here in Northwest Tennessee, I can't do a whole lot about it, because once more, it was my own people that betrayed me, that didn't want to see true utopia or peace, because they was looking more so on the latter part of the verse than there was the first part of the verse. And because of it, it has put everybody's life in jeopardy. Everybody's life in jeopardy. Including the people that not only went through what they went through up in 9/11 in New York City, but the people that right now are suffering on account of global intense warming that is causing all the smoke come down from Canada pertaining to the forest fires. That's now going to create that much more havoc pertaining to people's health up in that region. All the bad stuff that's happening to the world right now is because of these people that have engineered it, and they have basically bamboozled the oil industry companies or the world in general that global warming was not real, that has put us in behind the eight ball. And until people are willing to open their eyes to that, and until people are willing to work with the Windmill Ministries missions on this, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. And I tend to wonder that that's exactly what they want to do, because, you know, looking at that dam, it was only about 4 or 5 days ago that WPSD had an article pertaining to the very Kentucky dam up here by Grand Rivers, that they basically tried to make me out to be a homegrown terrorist towards, like I was going to do some sort of physical vandalism to the dam, which would cause possible of damaging or even killing people's lives below the dam, if that was to be the case, in which it wasn't. But it just seems awful coincidental that within about less than a week ago, that was on WPSD, I put my article out about the dam, and now all of a sudden the dam gets blowed. I'm pretty sure the dam got blowed from the inside. Because it got blowed from the inside, they didn't have to use near as much explosives by going into the interior walls.
Entering the race for the White House.
Going into the strategic areas where they know that once they start a domino effect, the rest of it will basically just fall in line. To impenetrate a dam that's not near the size dam as it is up here in Kentucky. I could tell that by looking at it, but it was still a good sized dam. To impenetrate a dam takes a great deal to be able to do that, pertaining to explosives. But it's not just the dam. It's the damages of the people that relied upon the water. It's all the flooding of all the villages. I think I was told that it was going to affect over 100 different territories or 100 different towns. I mean, it displaces everything towards making not only people's lives miserable, but costing that much more money to divert around the problem, because once more, every time something like that occurs, it takes away from the resources. Just like all the fires that's happening up in Canada, prior to all the fires that's been going on down in South America. Every time you do that, you're affecting the atmosphere. The atmosphere affects the quality of people's lives. Every time there's a flood, even though the flood waters go away, you still got the aftermath pertaining to the water that got in the septic tank sewering system, pertaining to the mold and all the above, towards creating that many more problems, towards people basically being thrown off into a sick bed. That's where we are right now. We're being thrown off into a sick bed, but eventually we'll go from being thrown off into a sick bed into actually being thrown off into great tribulation. And whenever that occurs, that's whenever fire and brimstone will come down from heaven. And people think, well, that's going to happen with a nuclear war. That ain't according to the Bible. According to the Bible, it's going to be man. It's going to be God. It's going to destroy humanity because of humanity destroying the world.
And we're gonna back up just a little bit here. Our producer got hit. All right. Our producer got hit by some sort of projectile right there. We're gonna back up here. You okay? Come on, we gotta move here. Let's back up. Come on. We're gonna get back. We're gonna move back. We're gonna get to a safe spot here, Don. As I continue to methodically work there, we gotta move back, fellas. Come on. We're on a brisk jog right now.
A new world of possibility as we explore.
Now, if you'll notice the footing on that was made the 30th, whenever all that was going on. So you got to pay close attention to whenever they're showing something of whether or not it's going on today, yesterday, or a year and a day ago. Just like whenever you open up your page on your Facebook or your YouTube or whatever, if you don't watch, you'll be getting old information that you thought was new information. That's one of the key elements about staying on top pertaining to accuracy and trueness in regards to our social media, is that you got to identify, is it today, the news of today, or was it something that happened a year and a day ago?
Tower cam shot. You can
Here's
see there
New
from
York City.
That's it. Not kidding you. It normally shows a view of the city skyline, normally pretty clean. At one point, though, on Tuesday night, New York City had the worst air pollution of any major city in the world. The air quality in the region is already at an unhealthy code red, but could worsen to code purple in the coming hours. Athena Jones has all the details for you.
I can smell it and feel it, yeah.
People in New York City masking up again, not because of COVID, but due to harmful smoke wafting into the city. Right now, New York City is among the top 5 most air polluted cities in the world. At one point, the air quality index soared past 200 Tuesday night, according to New York City Mayor Eric Adams. That's a very unhealthy level. The poor air quality is caused by more than 150 active wildfires burning in Canada. The smoke from those fires creating a haze for millions.
It should be super crowded. Everybody should be trying to get the good air, but it's not crowded. That tells you something, right?
More than 40 million people across the Northeast, Midwest, and Mid-Atlantic are under air quality alerts, affecting areas around Boston, shrouding Pittsburgh in smoke, while leaving Hartford, Connecticut under dense haze, and smoke lingering over New Jersey.
You can see the haze over the stadium.
The ominous skies clouded the start of the game at Yankee Stadium. But the haze did not stop all New Yorkers from venturing outside on Tuesday.
We're not just going to stay in the house because of air quality.
It is a little hazy, but they say, you shouldn't do strenuous activity, but I feel like I can go for a run right now. I know I shouldn't, maybe.
Sports and family medicine physician Tyler Wheeler warns, even if you can't see the smoke, it can still cause harm.
The particle sizes are really very small, which allows them to penetrate deeply into the lung tissue. So what the smoke generally does to the lungs, the thought is that it increases inflammation into the lungs.
At least 10 school districts in central New York have canceled outdoor activities due to poor air quality, which is not expected to improve in the coming days, as a cold front will likely push more smoke south and east into the U.S.
Children who are at higher risk of lung conditions. It certainly would be appropriate to minimize their exposure to the outdoor air.
Elderly people.
Tina Jones reporting there. While many schools in New York State cancelled outdoor activities on Tuesday, and people with asthma or similar health issues are being urged to stay inside for obvious reasons. And we've just heard it's well beyond New York City. Let's get more now from Jennifer Gray in the CNN Weather Center. And Jennifer, I don't know if you heard that Tina Jones saying that report that the air quality is not expected to get better. So give us a sense of how bad it is expected to get and when it will clear by.
Well, you can see from this live picture of New York City, it's hard to make out those skyscrapers. You can barely see them right there. It just shows you how dense this smoke is. It's covering not only New York City, but all the areas across the Northeast. Upstate New York is even worse because they're closer to the fires. And we're seeing it all the way as far south as, say, D.C., even the Carolinas across the U.S. getting in on this smoke. And it really has everything to do with the weather pattern, because we have winds that are blowing out of the north. And so what's happening is all that smoke from Canada is being blown right into the eastern part of the U.S. Visibility has been very low. Visibility in New York City, less than a mile right now. We've had ground stops across a couple of the airports in the Northeast because of the low visibility. And not only that, as you mentioned, the current air quality is very, very poor all up and down the Northeast. You can see unhealthy to very unhealthy. Some areas even considered hazardous. And then you can see in upstate New York, we have basically the same situation going on. This stretches all the way as far back as, say, the Ohio Valley and some cities in the Midwest, starting to improve today, but they were really bad just a couple of days ago. So really it just depends on that shifting wind, who's going to get the worst of it. So that's why people are urged to stay inside, especially people that are vulnerable. We have New York City and Toronto right there topping top 3 of the worst air quality and pollution of any major city in the world right now. Now this graph just sort of updates hour to hour, but we are seeing the top 3 right now. So here's that stagnant weather pattern that we're in, with high pressure off to our west, low pressure to our east, and it's basically just funneling these northerly winds right in between. So until something major happens, a major shift in our weather pattern, and winds, say, start to shift back from a southerly direction and push all that smoke out, we're really going to see this stick around for quite some time. So we could see it, say, really bad across the Northeast, and then it sort of shifts to the Ohio Valley and then back. So it is going to be back and forth. But all in all, this could be a problem we're dealing with for quite some time. We're still very early in fire season across Canada. And so as long as these winds are blowing out of the north, we're going to still get some smoke across the eastern half of the U.S. So I really don't see anything in the next 7 to 10 days that are really going to change much of this at all. And beyond that, it's really hard to tell. So we're going to see a very thick smoke across New York City. These red colors indicate the thicker smoke. So this evening, and then by the time we get into tomorrow, starts to wind down just a little bit. But as I mentioned, once it improves across the I-95 corridor, it gets worse for people to the west. So I think we're stuck here for a little while, at least for the time being.
Yeah, 7 to 10 days, that's quite a significant amount of time. Jennifer Gray, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Well, I want to stay in the United States and focus really on the race for the White House. The Republican field is getting, let's say, a little bit crowded now that Mike Pence is throwing his hat.
Oh man, same old pertaining to the politics. Everybody makes promises about the future, telling everybody that we're going to fix the problems, and they can't even fix themselves, much less other people's problems. It's really, really bad whenever the blind lead the blind, and they lead both of them off into the ditch of where we are right now in regards towards all this.
And
now we go from one area of being entirely too dry towards fires to this area that recently just got through being hit by an earthquake.
Thousands have been forced from their homes due to the flooding. International aid agencies are ringing the alarm bell. The country is already struggling, as you know, with gang violence and political chaos. Well, earlier I spoke with the World Food Programme's country director for Haiti, Jean-Martin Bauer. I began by asking him about the situation on the ground.
We're quite concerned. This has been a major impact for Haiti. The flooding that took place on Saturday has already affected 200,000 people, according to authorities. There was also on Monday an earthquake in the city of Jeremy. Now, the impacts of the flooding were concentrated in Port-au-Prince, but it also affected a lot of people in pockets throughout the country. The earthquake itself was in the city of Jeremy in the south, which itself faced a powerful earthquake in 2021, just 2 years ago. And you can imagine how that's affected people psychologically as well. Now, the crisis is happening at a time when Haiti's already dealing with a humanitarian emergency. 5.2 million people in the country need humanitarian assistance of some type. And Haiti happens to be the second most food insecure country in the world on a per capita basis, just behind South Sudan. So the situation is quite dire.
And let me ask you and pick up on parts of what you said. We'll talk about food insecurity in a second. But I'm guessing with the flooding and the earthquake, that has an impact on infrastructure, that has an impact on aid coming in, but also the risk of cholera here. Has this been a concern for your team on the ground?
See what I was talking about as far as you may not get cholera in America pertaining to the flooding of different areas, but it will create spurs of mold that people go back into their house and try to live, and the next thing you know, they wind up with bad allergies or bad asthma, or something that actually could lead to their very early death, because now they're sick. Well, what's causing all this? I mean, we're talking about just in one part of the world right there, 5.2 million people has been affected like this. What's causing all this? There you go.
That is a concern. Haiti had a few years without cholera between 2019 and 2022, and unfortunately in October cholera came back. This is the start of the rainy season, and it will affect cholera risk going forward, and it is one of the priorities to make sure that we limit that risk. Of course, with the flooding, there's a contamination of water sources, and there's also displacement, and therefore cholera prevention is one of the priorities.
And you mentioned, this already being the definition of a humanitarian crisis, and I'm keen to focus, Jean-Martin, if I could, on the children and the aspect of malnutrition. How many families are struggling to feed their children? Just paint us a picture of the scenes that you have been seeing day in and day out.
Look, in Haiti, unfortunately, half of the population is not able to access sufficient food. A recent study showed that 100,000 children are at risk of acute malnutrition in Haiti. That's 30% more than last year. Malnutrition is on the rise, food insecurity is on the rise, and children are the most vulnerable at this point.
Okay, so what about the aid? Has it been arriving, Jean-Martin? I mean, have you been able to get it into the country?
We have aid in the country, and we have ongoing programs, and we are responding to the ongoing flooding situation. We're also providing logistical support to local authorities to respond to the earthquake. But the real problem we have, Isa, is that Haiti isn't at risk of being a forgotten crisis. It is a forgotten crisis. The humanitarian appeal for Haiti is only 20% funded. With such a low funding level, it's very hard for humanitarian agencies to make a difference.
Okay, so why is it a forgotten crisis then, Jean-Martin?
And that's what's going to happen is that your poor, low-lying countries are going to be some of the first ones to suffer the first, because of the draining of the resources all over the planet towards everybody having to take care of their own problems. Whenever it gets to the point that you can't take care of yourself, much less take care of other people, well then the people that you was taking care of are going to even suffer that much more. And whenever it talks about humongous sorrows that will fall upon humanity in the last days, it means just exactly that. Humongous, intense sorrows of people suffering like you've never seen suffering before.
Is it that the world has forgotten about Haiti?
Well, what I observe is that in Haiti, there's been a lot of violence. And in fact, the violence has been so bad that in certain periods of the year, there have been more civilian deaths in Haiti than in Ukraine. But the attention isn't the same. It seems the world has shrunk and that a country like Haiti just doesn't get the attention it deserves. And I'd like to make sure that on this program, I tell you and tell whoever's listening that we need Haiti's partners, Haiti's friends to step up, because Haiti can't wait.
How frustrated is your team by the lack of aid and what you're seeing?
The team is frustrated. I want to let you know that we were also attacked in Goif in September, where one of our offices was attacked, looted, and burned to the ground. But we are resilient. We are back in business. My local team is doing distributions every day to help the Haitian population. We've already reached 1.4 million people in this country with essential food aid since the start of the year. So we are resilient. We will get the job done. Come with me.
He's country director there. I'll be back after this short break.
Stay tuned.
If the vast majority of the American people was having to go through what those people was going through right now, they wouldn't be able to make it. They wouldn't be able to make it, and they would give up hope and basically throw their hands up. And I don't know. We think the suicide rate's high right now, but it would even intensify more so if the people in America was going through something like that. So many events, and people think that, you know, well, this is world news. These are world events that's happening to people all over the world. They are world events. But because the world has shrunk just within the past 25 or 30 years, and now everybody relies upon everybody else towards this harmonical balance that your trading partners has created, once all that gets destabilized, then you're going to start seeing things affect your life here because of what other people's lives was affected over there. Once more, we live in a turbulent, a very turbulent world that now we can understand what's happening to other people that doesn't, in fact, affect our lives over here.
Jay Monahan says he held a heated meeting, his words, with the tour's players. While some are backing the venture.
See, we done seen some of that. Let's go forward. That's about the Golf thing in Saudi Arabia. Sorry about that. Go a little more here. Commercial. Stuff right here.
A bunch of rules, and unfortunately we were just met with silence. We never got any feedback from them. We never found a path to register. And so when they came in and shared with us that they believe every asset in crypto is a security other than Bitcoin, you know, it kind of made the decision easy. We have to go to court to go challenge this because that's not what the law says. And also, if that were to be the case, it would mean sort of the end of the crypto industry in the US. And so we feel like this is an opportunity for us to avail ourselves of the court to get some case law created that finally starts to bring regulatory clarity since the SEC is not providing it.
So you wanted to get sued?
No, but our first choice would be just to have the regulator publish a clear rulebook. You know, that's how it's supposed to work. They publish the rules and we all follow them. But if they're not doing that, you know, then the court is the next best option to go get some clarity. And the other big option we have, by the way, is Congress. You know, Congress, I think, generally is aligned now that there needs to be more clear regulation in the U.S. around crypto to protect consumers, but also preserve the innovation potential. And we've already seen, for instance, Europe has passed comprehensive legislation. The UK is moving there. You know, Singapore is moving there. Hong Kong. Basically, the U.S. is falling behind, and I think Congress recognizes this. We just saw, for instance, a draft bill come out last week from McHenry and Thompson that starts to clarify this role between the CFTC and the SEC. So I think we'll get clarity one way or another. It's going to be the courts. It could be the Congress passing new legislation, or it could be, you know, 2024 elections. Something changes there that we finally get to that in the U.S.
But even speaking there to Brian Armstrong. Well, some news this morning involving our own network. CNN's chairman, as well as CEO Chris Licht, is leaving the company. He took over the post a little more than 1 year ago, in fact. CNN's Oliver Darcy joins me now. And Oliver, what more are you learning about this?
That's right. Chris Licht, the chairman and CEO of CNN, has stepped down effective immediately. The announcement came from David Zaslav, who is the chief executive of CNN's parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery. Zaslav started losing faith in Chris Licht, I'm told, in recent months because of a series of self-inflicted wounds from Chris Licht. And there was really this blistering magazine profile in The Atlantic that published on Friday that really crystallized some of those concerns for Zaslav. And so he started thinking about this over the weekend, and earlier this week he made the final decision that Chris Licht should be relieved of his duties as CNN's chief. Now, in the interim, Zaslav has appointed 3 seasoned CNN executives to take the helm.
It's all about ratings. It's all about ratings. And once somebody slips and falls, that's it. You don't get no second chance in the Hollywood world. More at stake today than what it ever been.
To go on strike for 31 days. That's what you're expected to see, including most weekends between mid-June and the end of August. More than 2,000, I should say, officers are taking part in the action, the union calling it a major escalation of their pay dispute with the airport. Well, the walkout will affect a number of major airlines, including Virgin Atlantic, which request spoke to CEO Shai Weiss and asked him about disruptions at Heathrow.
I think we should be expecting, especially at Heathrow, a good summer. I'll put one star, one caveat. You know, the disruption of strikes in the United Kingdom is pretty severe, and of course, Border Force are doing the same. I understand the reasons, but they're doing it in a summer period, which hurts, of course, our passengers, our businesses, the country as a whole. But I still think that we will get through this summer in a pretty good place versus 2022.
So if we look at the way in which you are now in a position to grow the airline in a modest fashion.
Yes.
I mean, where's the focus? Because you cancelled a lot of sort of long-haul flights in the last iteration.
Yes.
You refocused to the Atlantic.
Yes.
But I can't help feeling you're going to have to go back out the other way.
We announced the first time we're flying into South America, and we're going to fly into Sao Paulo as of next year. And we're going to fly into Bengaluru, India. We made a big bet on India, and then we fly to Mumbai and Delhi. So I would say you were absolutely right. But in the same announcement, or just previous that, we said that Vegas is back from our home in the north in Manchester. So yes, 60 to 70% of our capacity is across the Atlantic. We always say it would not be Virgin without the Atlantic.
Right, but that's cherry picking, isn't it? That's cherry picking the profitable international routes out of London.
And what's wrong with that?
No, I'm not. No, as opposed to a sort of a full network of routes that maybe your principal competitor has.
That's right. And we've got to look at who Virgin Atlantic is. It's a premium brand.
It's a subsidiary of Delta.
It's a premium brand with a fantastic group of people running, I think, a pretty good airline to the benefit of consumers and businesses. Yes, Delta owns 49%, and we're proud of the partnership with Delta. But Virgin is an independent, thriving company, and we work very, very, very specifically transatlantic with the United States as the heart.
That way we can put more chemtrails up in the sky, and that way we can affect the ozone that much more. That way we'll see the radical forces of nature intensify. Wow. I just don't know where it stops. This runaway train. Big money investors.
What does that mean? That he's going to use the orthodox and heterodox mixture of the policies. Not only orthodox, not only heterodox, but a mixed policy which is going to save for the Turkish economy. Turkish economy can recover very fast. We faced this in our previous crisis in this country. For example, 2008 crisis, 2018 crisis. We can recover in 1 year very easily because we have the potential.
What did he mean when he said this is the Turkish century?
He means that Turkey will going to put more effort in the global context to make the part of Turkey economically, politically, geopolitically more. We are going to be in the global context more. Why? That's very crucial. Turkey is at the pathways from east to west. It's the only two continents where there is a river separating. So when you look at the potential, east to west, north to south, there's a huge potential, and it's a passageway. Aviation is the #1 industry demonstrating this, not only for passenger traffic, but also for the cargo carrying.
The relationship between you and Turkish.
Yeah.
And you compete at one level, but at the same time, you sort of have an understanding about being Turkish and the significance of the Turkish economy that you don't see in other countries.
The reason Turkish Airlines is our national pride. They are our only international brand, and we have full respect to them. We are side to side with them to serve better for the international and domestic customers. Our only target is to increase the number of passengers coming to Turkey.
Finally.
All right, let's go on here. Just about done here. Looks like they're going to hit New York again, pertaining to all the smog. You know, if you watch the news, they just keep rolling over, you know, several different things.
General Chilese Kapwepe, thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
If we could just start off by talking about COMESA's history and its mission, what it means for connecting the continent.
COMESA is the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, which is a regional economic community. It has 21 member states across mostly the eastern and southern part of Africa, but we'll also go all the way up to the north with Tunisia as a member, and all the way down to the south with Eswatini as a member. So quite a wide footprint across the continent. Apart from the 21 members, the actual population is over 600 million people. So it's a huge market. The main objective is for us to support our member states to transform their economies anchored on trade, to ensure that there's sustainable economic development, to uplift the living standards of our citizens.
What about the Continental Free Trade Agreement? It is exciting. It is, blanket approach to the whole continent. It's going to cause standardization rules and, of course, harmonization. Have you seen anything change since the AFCFTA went live a few years ago?
Yes, I think there has been progress. Obviously, it's a huge undertaking, bringing together more than 50 member states to harmonize their regulations, to have common instruments in trade. This is why we, as a regional economic community, are identified as a building block towards supporting the quick implementation of the Continental Free Trade Area, simply because we've been in the business for a long time. We have established a number of instruments in terms of trade facilitation, which can help the Continental Free Trade Area come to life.
In terms of the private sector, how important...
This is all about business, pertaining to money, opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see what else they're going to throw at us real quick.
Country. Wear masks if people have to be outside. If you've been checking your phone's weather app, you've been getting the alerts and seeing the unhealthy and in some cases hazardous air quality numbers impacting cities from New England to North Carolina. The blanket of orange smoke swallowing up major cities such as New York City, making high-rises disappear in the haze. It looks like a Star Wars movie there. Officials say yesterday's air quality in New York City was the worst since the 1960s, before the EPA was created. Right now, it's currently among the worst in the world. CNN's Athena Jones is in New York for us. Athena, tell us what you're seeing and experiencing right now.
Hi, Jake. Well, this is remarkable. We've been reporting on this all day, and several hours ago, we were along the Hudson on the west side of Manhattan. It didn't seem that bad. You could see the haze. Now it feels as though we're living, breathing, working in a giant cloud of smoke. Yes, you can see a few yards in front of you, but not much beyond that. Let me just show you. This is the southern direction. We're on the east side of Manhattan. You can see some buildings a few hundred yards in front, but see that big, tall building on the right? Usually, you can see a lot more skyscrapers beyond that. This is Manhattan. It's a city known for all of its tall buildings. Moving over here to East 57th, we're on East 57th Street. This strip goes up to West 57th Street.
This is all the complications of global warming pertaining to it getting so warm and hot, causing all the fires. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure this stuff out.
Still be to come, Jake.
All right, Caitlin Palance and Kristen Holmes, thanks to both of you. Appreciate it. Joining us now to discuss much more than just that. Republican presidential candidate and former New...
Don't want to know nothing about none of that. To me, politics ain't news.
Regret what I did.
This is not where I thought this story was heading.
Who's Talking to Chris Wallace? Friday on CNN. Tonight.
There is just so many unbelievable things going on right now in the world.
And wait till you...
It's actually frightening. It's frightening to understand the in-depthness of so many hazardous situations going on. Obviously, that was some sort of an accident right there where a CNN reporter is trying to get close enough to get the realization of what's happening, but at the same time not get too close to the point that he winds up getting injured. But it's just one horrendous, horrible event happening one right after another. And if we are not smart enough to wrap our minds around this stuff to be able to fix these things, I'm just afraid that they're only going to get worse and intensify even more so. Thanks again for listening. Good luck to all of us. This was in 2012, if you'll see there. I don't know what it was pertaining to. I don't know if it right there at a roadside. I'm pretty sure it was some sort of a bad accident. February the 12th, 2012. So you got to be, kind of smart, conscientiously whenever you watch this stuff to be able to identify just exactly what date that you're watching it at. Today, I think, is June, maybe the 8th, June the 7th, maybe, or June the 8th, 2023. I'm here in America, Northwest Tennessee, kind of doing a follow-up on news headlines of today. As we end our program by saying, God bless America, God bless our troops, God bless our endeavors, and good luck to all of us. Shalom.